Hey there, this is Clark with the Disaster Podcaster and Restoration Advisors. Have a great podcast today with Alena Wilson from Xactimate Mastery. Just one of the absolute top trainers, experts, subject matter experts in the industry, in the world of Xactimate, knowing so much about it, has so much content online. She gives away so much. I'm just so excited to be talking to her. We have a little bit of a relationship, kind of like going way back, early day of the Rebels. And I'm really excited to learn so much more today. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Here we are. Hello, Alena.
Hey, Clark. Good to be on with you.
Good to be on with you. How you doing?
Doing great. Keeping busy. You know, this industry's moving fast and we're just trying to keep up.
It is moving fast, or we're moving really slow. First thing I noticed is the Pink Panther. I love the Pink Panther. I grew up on the Pink Panther. That's pretty epic. That's pretty awesome.
Me too. And I've got Shorn the sheep from Wallace and Gromit and his puppy friend over here somewhere.
And I see a cat. Did you paint that?
I did not. My sister-in-law does pet portraits, and that is Emmy Lou, my Bengal kitty, who keeps me busy and on my toes too.
Cats do that.
Yes.
They revel in that. So let me introduce you, just what I know, and then I'll turn it over to you just for those listening. Alena Wilson is the owner of Xactimate Mastery, actually a co-owner, I believe, but basically the owner of Xactimate Mastery, a firm based in Salt Lake. And I believe you live in Salt Lake City, Utah. Beautiful, beautiful city. Your firm is built around training restoration professionals and just contractors that use Xactimate on how best to use the software to navigate through claims with it and justify what they're doing, as well as scale for their teams and the size of the job. So, I mean, I know Xactimate is a very big and bold and complex program, and it takes a lot of training because, they have a lot, but you seem to have an incredible reputation in the industry. I can't tell you how many forums you get tagged on a day. And that usually in this current environment, that usually means you're a subject matter expert. So welcome to the podcast. And I'm really glad to have you here today. So why don't you tell us what's been going on with you lately?
Sure. Thank you, Clark, for that introduction. That you flatter me. I'm just a nerd who likes software, and I happen to like the restoration industry. So that's really me in a nutshell. We were really set up for when COVID hit because I'd already been training online. I have all my platform, everything I do was already online, and I do group coaching calls via Zoom. So we were ready to go when COVID hit. So that was really a blessing that we were prepared. Other than that, just keeping up with industry changes. We've got X1 now that they're really pushing us over from version 28 onto X1. As far as my training goes, anyone can train you how to use Xactimate. And there's a lot of really good trainers out there. But what I specifically focus in on is, where are you leaving the money behind? Anyone can write an estimate, but you don't know what you don't know. What does the line item include? When should you add O&P? And what does it actually do? And you should fight for it. Just all those things that you can leave thousands behind if you don't know. And that's really where my speciality is in helping you pick up those dollars that you're leaving on the table.
Nice. So it's not necessarily the functionality of the codes and line items. It's actually understanding how the infrastructure of the system works and the program works. And that's great, because just some of the things you just mentioned are some of the things, and I think we're going to get to it in a minute. Those are some of the things that I see misinterpreted a lot of myth and a lot of lies and a lot of just misunderstandings about Xactimate. And I think that's just a disservice to the people that use it. So
absolutely.
Well, thank you. So let's real quick, tell me a little bit about you in Salt Lake. Is that where you grew up?
No, I'm actually from New Mexico, and I lived there for 30 years, and I've been here for 8. So that tells you how old I am. And so I got married when I was 30. Oh yeah, there we go. So I got married and moved up here. You know, New Mexico is beautiful. It's a wonderful state, but the economy there is really poor. It's actually quite sad. And I hope someday to go back and maybe help with that. But up here, my husband's a land surveyor. So we are booming here in Salt Lake City with construction and everything that's going on. So he's doing really well. It's a nice hub for me. I can bring people in and out much easier here for training. And it's just been a beautiful place to live. And my family was based here.
Okay.
From way back. So yeah,
for a while. You got closer to family, the whole family got closer together. Cool. So you've been there 8 years. And was that the beginning of your Xactimate career, or had that been going on before while you were still in New Mexico?
Great question. So I lived in the mountains of southern New Mexico, the very southern tip of the Rockies. It's called Ruidoso, New Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
So all the West Texans buy real estate in Ruidoso because it's nice and cool in the summer. I mean, we didn't even need air conditioning. So I was working there as a real estate agent, doing listings and things in 2008. So what do you get rid of first thing when you're in an economic crisis? Your second home. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't doing so great. And so I needed to find something else to do. And my dad actually had worked for Xactware as one of their lead trainers and was now broken off in training for a third-party adjusting firm, Adjuster Pro. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're a great training, a really great they train third-party adjusters and independents. And so I went to work with him, and he taught me everything he knew about Xactimate. I grew up in construction, so I already knew, how things were put together. I never lived in a house that wasn't remodeled, being remodeled in some way. It was insane. Anyways, all that to say, it pushed me to go and have a career change when, we had the economic crisis. And so then I started training adjusters, and I used to fly to Arlington, Texas and train right next to the Cowboys' new stadium. They had a little facility for adjuster training near that stadium. It was pretty cool. And trained them for about 3 to 4 years. I worked just training adjusters. Then I thought, you know what, I think there's a little bit better way we can do this. And I just broke out on my own and had some contacts and started training. And then someone reached out and said, hey, can you train a group of roofing contractors up in Minnesota? I was like, okay, yeah, I'll train anybody. So I go up there. And I don't know if this ever happened to you, Clark, but I started to do my spiel, day one. And I just got the dead fish look, like, what you're telling us is no, we don't need this information. What did we sign up for here? And so I just was like, okay, guys, I have to be frank. What am I not saying? They're like, we need to know what line items we're missing. We don't understand, what does the roofing line item contain? What can I ask for? What can I not ask for? It's like, oh, that's totally different than teaching you how to use sketch a staircase.
Right.
That's not going to make you any money. Got it. So I went and opened up a third-party estimating firm where I started writing estimates on behalf of contractors and talking to the adjusters, seeing what worked and what didn't. The way you format an estimate can be the difference between it getting accepted or rejected right off the bat. I worked a lot with supplementing. So we'd write the supplement estimates after the original statement of loss was received and they missed a bunch of items. So once I found out, okay, here's how we do it, and I was really successful, I was able to supplement about $465,000 for a company out of Colorado in just 1 year in supplement funds alone. I was like, I think I got it now. Yeah. So then I created my online training program that teaches contractors to do exactly what I did in my business: keep organized, not let files fall through the cracks, and also all that stuff I'm talking about, being profitable and getting paid what you should out of your jobs. So that's my whole story in 5 minutes.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and stir the pot. So what I heard out of that is, who knows Xactimate better, you or your dad?
Ooh, Xactimate, Dad.
Yeah, because he was a trainer.
But the supplementing and getting paid, Alena.
Okay, so that's your niche. And so what I heard was that he was a trainer for them, and now you're kind of like and obviously we don't hear his name on the internet, we hear your name. So I was wondering a little bit about that. Cool. So you said you had a husband.
Sorry, I have to interrupt. He's working for I hired him as my live trainer, and he does their certification classes. So nice.
I've seen your online content, and by the way, very, very well done. And then I think it's super timely. We'll probably hit upon this, but the world has moved to an online mindset, and I think it's just going to be. I don't know if it's a long time, but for the next few years, I think online content, online training is going to be extreme. I think what COVID taught us was, wait a minute, we don't have to fly places, and we don't have to spend all this money to send people everywhere when, and it's just so easy to absorb content now through a device or through whatever. So I think the world made a huge jump, or it was already leaping, and it just put a little horsepower under the shoes or something like that. But your content's really, really great. I've seen several of yours, and I'd like everybody to know. I mean, I have a reputation of, and I think you even messaged me about it. I'm not anti Xactimate. I will tell you what I am. I don't. You have probably spoken more about Xactimate than I'll know in my whole life. I just came from a different place and never used it. So it's really just like people that don't use Excel might not like Excel because it looks daunting. I grew up, this industry. I started this industry, my second career 20 years ago. Everything was T&M. I just did commercial and generally larger and sizable losses, complex losses for end users for a couple of really large contractors. I owned the dry cleaners and textile cleaners, but even before Xactimate was really we just priced things our own way, kind of retail, but to a wholesale client who might have been a contractor that brought us some clothes. So Xactimate is just, I've always been distant from it. But I've learned enough, and this is what I want to really clear up. And I've learned enough in the last 5 years after opening Restoration Advisors, because every client I have is Xactimate. I mean, several licenses, and that's just the world they live in. They're working on insurance claims. It's really, really difficult to break away. And I've had to learn some things. I refer people to people like you for training on it, but just so that I'm basic understanding. And what I've learned is what I've learned from digging into it at the granular level, and what the understanding of the industry are still vastly different. And there's some things on its infrastructure and it's on its intended purposes and how it's supposed to be used. And like you said, what's included in one line item, what's not. And I've learned enough about that I've championed that if you're going to use this software, learn it and use it the right way. Because I'm like you, I want restoration contractors to be profitable, because I believe we help homeowners, we help the insured. And the only way we can continue to do that is to remain or become more profitable so that we can stay open. And there's this, I see lack of understanding leads to doing bad work, from having to cut corners and not hiring the right people, therefore doing bad work and sometimes making some terrible moral decisions. So it's not Xactimate's fault. I think it's incredible software. I mean, there's nothing else like it as far as I know. And I just, how it's not understood very well, maybe from its complexity. And then there's a little bit of me as the contrarian, as the rebel, that I don't feel like Xactimate in my mind has done a great job of sharing its use case and its best practices and things. And I just, that's where I get a little bit in the weeds about it, but we can talk about that a little bit later. But I know you're great at it. Andy, who's a friend of yours, Andy McCabe. I mean, a lot of good friends of mine. Ben Justinson has done great things traveling this country. There's so many of you that are pouring in education. And for that, I'm a big fan. When I see people post online saying, I can't charge for this. Carrier told me, if I'm over Xactimate, then I'm blacklisted. That's not how it's intended to be used, and you're just underinformed, and therefore you're having to believe what you're hearing. But that's where the education comes in. So enough about that. Again, I wanted to ask you, I wrote a few points down here, because if I don't, we could sit here and talk losses all day. Let me ask you this.
True.
Here's a good question. What's the largest Xactimate invoice you've ever written yourself?
So we were hired by actually an adjuster who was overwhelmed in Houston when they had the big hurricane. I don't know why. Is it Harvey? Like 3 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They were working in a huge a suburb, but where there's huge homes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it was, FEMA flood claims. So they had a cap on what they were paying out, but 2.5 million was some of the estimates we were writing. I mean, things I'd never seen before. I had to learn what judges panels are. Like the panel, it was amazing what they had, these big curved staircases and marble in the bathrooms and all the accoutrement. And they were just totaled. Like,
Wow.
it was so sad and
Yeah.
awful and really heartbreaking. But anyways, yeah, we did about 3 or 4 of those, helped her sketch them and then get all the line items added, and built out those kitchens, those all the custom cabinets and all the stuff. And a lot of bid items go into those kinds of homes
Yeah.
too, because like a chandelier, it's like Xactimate pricing isn't going to come up to that. So, we had to do some research. So that was a big one. Also, I kind of started dabbling in this industry whenever I was teaching Xactimate. I also got my adjuster's license and I did contents claims.
Mm.
So there was a pastor whose basement got flooded, and they stored all of their suits and dresses and the wife's dresses and all the shoes in their basement.
Mhm.
So I had to go like shopping online for like Manolo Blahnik, $3,000 shoes. And then that was a big one. I don't remember what the total was, but I remember that was like, whoa, this is an experience.
Nice.
Replacing all their contents items. So yeah.
I've heard people talk, because you're going to educate me and those listening now. I've heard before a rumor that Xactimate, and I think you just nibbled at it, Xactimate doesn't do great with high finish and high value and of course custom items. You just mentioned that. Is that, this sounds like it's pretty much true, right?
Yeah, and commercial. So here's what Xactimate stance is they're an average.
Mhm.
So like an average home. So there's different grades. There's like standard grade that would be an average like mobile home, manufactured home. Then there's a regular average grade that's for our regular residential houses. Then they have a high grade category that's an average of the higher end homes. But they have over 18,000 plus line items, not counting even contents. That's a lot to keep track of. And so that's the kind of their wheelhouse is we do these average things. When you have something, new to the industry or custom, if it's a one-off, there's no reason for them to create a line item for it. If it's not average, an average material or labor being used in the industry. So that's, they're always adding line items, but that's kind of where you're going to find that line is they're trying to be the average.
Sure.
Yeah.
And, an Xactimate is a tool. It's absolutely not an invoicing program. It's a tool to use to begin to build an estimate for the services you need. And one of the things that I think it's section number 7 in the terms and conditions that they do not recommend to be used as global pricing, because not every business out there has the same cost to do business, the overhead.
Exactly.
Regionally, the materials may be differently. I mean, Lord knows we're going through COVID, and yes, they have a feedback process. I will tell you, a lot of people don't understand how the feedback works. Very few people that aren't on programs, I'm sure you recognize this, people that are not on programs with TPAs aren't providing feedback. They are not uploading their estimates to Exact Analysis to therefore affect. And then they're complaining about the rates that are downloadable, but they're not contributing to them because they just don't know. And so those are some areas. But yeah, I've heard that there's issues with high-end custom, and I just was in the freezes in Texas, and there was a lot of those homes were really Dallas. Some areas of Dallas were multi-million-dollar houses, and also just economies of scale. A large loss, a large complex commercial fire, and again, I could come up with a number. We have a term in time and materials called ROM, reserve, range magnitude reserve, and we can throw a number on it, but it's more of a time and materials square foot based study, and then you're working on creating a total based on your consumption of your hours and use and things like that. So I think a lot of people avoid putting a number on a job up front because Xactimate is bring your laptop out. There's some things to it. Can you let me change subject. Can you tell me real quick what's the big change with X1 in 28 for a layman, or is it required to change? Have I heard that right? That you're going to be forced to convert and upgrade?
Yeah. So a couple thoughts on that. I believe that there's probably over 50% of carriers that are still on 28. They are dinosaurs. They're not going to flip over tomorrow the way Xactware wants them to. So Xactware is threatening to end support for X1 in December. Already they're saying, oh, we're not going to be doing any more updates for 28. You need to switch over now. You can't even really get a demo version of 28 at all anymore for new people. They push you over to X1. So that's the situation. Now, they're going to have to get over 50% of their client base, because let's be honest, most of their money comes from big insurance carriers, right?
Mhm,
So if
mhm.
they can't get their biggest clients to flip over, I don't know how they're not going to support it anymore.
Yeah,
But all of that being said, at the end of the day, X1 really is lipstick on a pig, if you want my opinion. And gosh, don't tell Exact where I said that, but
they won't
all
hear
they did
this.
was put all they did was put a blue ribbon
Uh,
on what, the main screen in your estimate items or your sketch looks the same. They just put this new blue menu that looks like the mobile version, so it looks a
mm.
little bit more integrated for the mobile version.
So a lot of it's user interface, just interface things like that.
No new features. In fact, they took away a lot of really nice things like a price list editor. They've blown that up, things like that. And then of course your dashboard looks nice and new. And that's probably the place that people get confused the most is the dashboard,
Yeah.
how to, start new projects and all of that. That stuff's simple. It's just a mindset switch of, oh, now it looks more modern. Really, it's nothing major. And then the online version still looks like 28. Can you believe it? They haven't even bothered to change the online version to look like the new X1. It's just a wild, crazy world out there right now.
Well, I know there's a lot of fans of Xactimate. I mean, there's a lot of groups. I mean, you and I know a lot of the same people. Parker, just this is thousands of restorers that I know that just, and listen, it's a badge of honor to be really efficient and great and be able to go fast and build a great, there's some real macho stuff there. Obviously, I don't know if this industry is probably mostly male estimators, right? Yes, except maybe on the carrier side, maybe there's a lot of female adjusters, but the male side is like, I can write the fastest estimate, but is it the best estimate? And just is it as fastest? Fast is not fast, cheap, and good. The triangle, pick two. You can't have all three. Alena, let me ask you this. Let's take a window of time. Let's say the last 4 years. I want you to think of what you've seen in this industry as it relates to Xactimate, to estimating claims. What big changes have you seen occur in the last 4 years in our industry? If you could pick one or two.
Let's see. I would say it's getting worse on the carrier side as far as who they're hiring. It seems to be more, college grads with absolutely no experience, and they throw them out there, throw them to the wolves, and they give them program rules, right? Like, this is what our threshold is for a dry out, blah, blah, blah. So these people are spouting this information that they have no knowledge of. They're just parroting what the insurance company told them to say. They have no clue what the dry
They're reading from a script.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That was interesting.
Exactly right.
It blurs out my writing, so that's pretty
there
cool.
You go.
Okay.
Have something very special written there.
So they're just hired. Do you think that hiring of a lower? I mean, this is conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat. Do you think that's intentional to a degree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you ever read From Good Hands to Boxing Gloves? That book about Allstate?
I have.
It's intentional.
Delayed.
They're a business. They would need to make a profit.
I was 2 weeks ago, I was at the RIA event, and I say this all the time, but Rusty Armonte from Belfour was on stage, and he said the same thing I said. If I own an insurance company, I'd be doing the exact same thing they're doing. They're making billions. I was in Atlanta and I saw the State Farm Mecca. I mean, it's three shiny 28-story buildings, just fountains everywhere. And I'm like, there's everybody's O&P right there. All the stuff they don't want to pay for is paying for that.
Exactly.
So you've seen a lot of the pressure that causes, because it does. I mean, listen, the average restorer, which you and I both know that the barrier of entry to become a restoration contractor there isn't one. Sorry, there is not a barrier of entry, and their level of expertise using the software, the industry is also low. So when you match low restoration contractor education and low carrier adjuster representative TPA education low, now you've got two people of low level of understanding trying to manage these claims and leaving the insured in a pretty tough spot because they're just not getting enough to make actual repairs to their homes anymore. So I agree with you. I've seen a lot more of, they don't know what they don't know. I tell people all the time, don't get mad at adjusters. They've got car payments. They've got kids with braces. They're trying to make a living and have their best life and get Netflix and pay for it. I mean, they're just doing what they're told. They're doing their job. They don't know what your cost of your business and your material. They've never had payroll. And so I just tell people, just don't get emotional. So that's one thing. You have another one that's really changed?
Let's see, change. it's just getting harder to get stuff paid,
Yeah.
especially over the last year and a half with USAA hiring that third party firm. They used to be the best, and now they're near to the bottom. There's always some changes. Tracking who's going to pay O&P, who isn't this month. It's just a upward swing and a downward swing. We just ride it out. And that's probably the biggest thing is they just seem to be hiring more third party estimating firms, which
they
is
are, and again, it's working. I will tell anybody, if you're giving away your O&P, if someone says they don't pay for it, then you got to find somebody that does, because you can't run a business without it. I don't know how. You're a 501c if you don't. But I think a change that I've seen happen a lot. We started, a couple of us started the Restoration Rebels, and again, I would have never really been in the residential world, but the introduction of more technology like Matterport, a lot more laser lights. So that's been some really interesting. I asked a question sometimes. I'm going to go ahead and be that guy, man. We're over documenting claims now, way more than we used to, especially if you've got a background in this. Anyone that was doing restoration over 15 years ago would be, if you'd been in coma and wake up and see the level of how much administrative work we're doing to help the carriers document the claim. Again, it's another form of their profit building. Is if we can take some of this work off of carriers and our adjusters, we can adjust more claims and have fewer people and be more profitable. But I just see a lot of Matterport, which has a lot of advantages. I mean, it's really a great piece of kit. I just have seen a lot more of that and people accepting of it. And the first time somebody said Matterport, oh my gosh, $3,000, $4,000 for a camera. Now everybody has 2 or 3. So it's really interesting because they learned how to use it as a tool. Whether or not they're getting paid for it, it's still buying them a lot of time. But the laser light, the thetas, and really speeding up that efficiency of that. So
and they have on the new iPads, they have the LiDAR for Xactimate Mobile that will do the sketch for you. I haven't played around with it much because we just got this, but there's some cool stuff coming out, and that's exciting. But you're absolutely right. We do have to document a lot more than we used to, and that's where I find most contractors are leaving 25% or more on the table, is because they're not taking the time to do that documentation.
Well, they're contractors. I mean, we're craftsmen. We've worked with our hands, and we build stuff. We're not office,
totally.
white collar. And I think that's where the gap has been, and I think it's been exploited, and I think it's it's a big issue. So that's why I have my firm is I let the ICRC handle the technical, IRC and the RA. Let's get them trained up with the technical and the certifications. There's a lot of you that teach with Xactimate, but I want to try to help people run a good business. I mean, knowing your numbers, knowing how to market, how to find your ideal client, and get employees right now, the staffing, and those are the soft skills that's not really being taught anywhere. You just and this generation coming up, they said I built cabinets my whole life. I never hired anyone. Now I got to hire 3 people, and so that's kind of where my passion is to keep them in business, because there's so many experts like you that can handle the other part. That's why I think we're a team. I look at all the educators in this industry. We're all trying to do the same thing. Sometimes I think we don't talk and discuss enough stuff. I lost my camera for those that are playing at home. So I'm going to keep going. The show must go on. So that said, what about the next 3 or 4 years? If you had to make any predictions or what you think's coming down the pike, or what you think's happening?
It's going to get worse, not better, but that's okay. We'll just, if you're prepared for it and are open to be educated, then you just keep up with industry changes. And, it's, I hate to say worse, because I think more technology is going to come out and make it a little bit more easier on us. Xactware is starting to integrate with a couple of CRMs. So maybe they'll change their mind and play better. So we don't have to data entry things 3-4 times using Xactimate, your CRM, your invoicing system. So I think there are some really cool changes on the horizon, but as far as dealing with insurance companies goes, I think it's always that balance of being profitable and, fighting that. It's just an interesting time. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm really excited about it.
I think the success is going to go towards those that accept it and adapt change and put themselves in a position to learn how to go with it. Those that just want to fight it and battle it and stick their head in the sand and hold the ground and say, I'm not going to fight anymore. Well, you're going to be a dinosaur. You're going to be Blockbuster. You're not going to be relevant anymore. It's just, there's size. Sure. I mean, insurance carriers are absolutely immense. I mean, I know software, CRMs you're talking about, one of the best ones that out there they're not even for the restoration, they're more for the plumbing and HVAC. They said restoration is too small of a niche for us. You guys are minuscule in the overall. There's, what is there, 15, 30,000 contractors of different, they're dealing with stuff that has hundreds of thousands. So restoration is just such a micro niche in the contracting world. And it really blurs the lines between people who do carpet cleaning and reconstruction and general renovations and stuff. And they try to do some drying and stuff like that. So it's really, really difficult for people on the outside, especially friends I've got said, I don't know anything. Oh, y'all are like that ServPro. So I always say, thanks ServPro for our whole industry having a face. They've really helped that side of things. But I agree. I'm seeing a lot of unfair things from TPAs, and I tell people, be professional until the other side isn't. They've got a job to do. Doesn't mean you have to listen to them unless you're working for that TPA or working on that program. Then then of course you've signed an agreement. You just got to live up to your agreement. But if you're an independent of anything, just the carrier calls and says, we don't pay for this, we don't pay for that. So thank you for letting me know. It's understandable. Let's the three of us have a conversation with the client and tell them they must have exclusions in their, those kinds of conversations. Let's talk about the exclusions that they've got in their policy, because it doesn't change what I need to do to be profitable. I can't give it away. So those are just the conversations. And of course I show people how to, if you really, really want to if you're really tired of it and you don't want to pursue the education, how to do it right, there are some options to estimate mitigation outside of Xactimate. It's not the law.
It's not the law.
It's not the law, but it's easier. And then there's arguments whether it's easier to get paid with it or without it. I don't know. I've seen data on both of those, but I agree with you. I think it's going to get interesting. I think that there will be a time when homeowners might have an app and they can scan their house with that LiDAR, and maybe it'll have infrared built in. They can tell how wet it is and put a value.
Xactor has something called Claim Experience, and they can virtually walk the homeowner and say, take this picture, take this reading, take this whatever.
Settle a claim that way, right?
And then the homeowner's doing all the work now.
And then that means that the carrier is going to have a list, and we're going to email you a list of 4 providers that can help you possibly with that amount of money. And where does that put, and we all know that's going to be a low number. It's not going to be the number it needs to be. It's really, really interesting. We can obviously make a lot of assumptions, but I'm with you. I've seen a lot of changes in the last few years. I'm still seeing some people that are fair with independence. A lot of times independence, you'll get a different level of professionalism. And then adjusters that have been, especially in large loss, those adjusters, they're not playing the same game as the smaller claims at all. There are consultants. There's JS Hill, there's Young and Associates, Meridian, those kind of things. It's a different field, but it's not, we don't pay for supervision. I mean, on a large commercial job, you're going to have supervisors because you have safety. You can't exclude that. It's the customer demands it. But it's just a different fight. And just, knowing where you are, stop being emotional about it, and then get the training, go get the Xactimate Mastery. So a couple fun questions here. Have you and your family taken a post-COVID vacation yet?
No, we are the busiest we've ever been in our business, and we're just rocking and rolling and seeing how long we're going to last on this wild ride. So, I mean, I take some personal time, just to recharge, but no, we haven't done anything big. Oh, I take that back. I'm sorry. Not me personally. Mom and Dad went to England for 6 weeks. Oh. So they got to go. My sister lives in Bristol, England, and she's having her first child, had her first child at the end of May, beginning of June. So they went for 6 weeks. They got to go. I stayed home and held down the floor. Yeah.
Yeah. Britain's not a place I would want to vacation to. I mean, I've been there, but I'm seeing a lot of people and friends on Facebook, like now that things have opened up, if you will, the beaches are packed, and just I was in Orlando and the airport was packed because of Disney, and people are really, really jumping out and taking advantages of and honestly, travel is expensive now. The travel industry have said we lost a lot last year. We're going to start making it up a little bit at a time. I'm heading to Boulder this coming weekend, and I just couldn't believe the cost of everything. And now Boulder and Denver is a little expensive anyway. But just flights and just rental cars. It's just, and everything's got a reason why it's expensive, but it's just, it's just more. I think COVID has just caused an increase of goods. I think it's just, we talk about in staffing. You $15 an hour is the new $10 an hour. If you're offering people under 15, that's not a living wage anymore. Yeah. And you're not going to get anything quality. It is certainly not fair. Nobody's going to be enthused about working there. But I think I'm seeing a lot of restorers saying we're now at the 20, 21 to 24 mark. And that's it's still not enough for what we expect these young men and women to do in this world, but it's where we are. And I think it's better, but I think that's going to cause the prices of insurance, restoration processes to go up, and then insurance is going to go up, and people will buy cheaper policies because the rates are going up. It's just all cyclical, right? It's really, when you stop and look at the whole big picture as a business owner and restorer or your businessman, we're all affecting all of this. So I just see a lot of emotional people who, when a carrier says we're not paying that line item, you take it personal. It's like, it doesn't mean you're not doing the job right. It just means they don't want to pay for it. So don't get yourself down. So I love coaching in those ways. And a lot of it's mindset. Business is a mindset. So, so no vacation yet. So I'll check with you in a few months and see if you've snuck away. You live in a great place, though.
I do.
I have a friend that lives in, actually a custom knife maker that I buy knives from. He lives in Bountiful, and I come out there a couple times every couple of years, and went to the Arches finally, and went down south. It was really, really cool, and drove on the Salt Lake really fast one day. So.
Ooh, fun.
Ooh. So you're already doing online courses. I wanted to ask you about that because I'm pivoting into that world. You have online courses and publishable and people purchase them now?
Yes.
Do you have a bunch of smaller ones, or do you have a big signature program, or how's your setup?
Yeah, that was the learning experience. So I've been doing this for 4 years or so online. And I started out, piecemealing, begin to master Xactimate. Okay, middle course, advanced, supplementing over here. But they need it all, Clark.
They do.
They don't know what they don't know. I have guys that have been using it for 7 years that are like, Alena, I've been leaving $1,000 on every job that I've done for the last 7 years because I didn't know that one thing. Yeah. So, and it's a very basic thing. So I believe everybody needs the basics, the foundations, and then we can, So I sell an all-inclusive course that includes macros as well. So written templates. And then also you need support. So there's group coaching. It's an all-inclusive thing. But the meat and potatoes is a 4-module course that I've pre-recorded. And so it's available anytime they can press play, and it tracks their progress. So that when you press, stop at the end of the day, you're like, okay, cool. I only have this much more to go. And it feels, like they're making some progress in the course. So,
well, that's almost gamification at that point. So we learn that way. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm pivoting into, because I find myself repeating the same thing over and over and over. And I think you're like me. You and I kind of discount what we know about this one thing or whatever, and then like people told me a long time ago, our 70% is someone else's 120. So it's just normal thing. Listen, if I said something about shooting hoops with Jordan, he's like, I do it well, but like, you're the best in the world. But when I have conversations at a bar or at a restaurant with people, and I'm just spitting out some things, they're all like, oh, hold on, let me get a napkin right there. And it kind of teaches you that stuff, you've got to put it out there, you got to help people succeed. So I'm doing online courses. I've got a great platform that's really supportive of doing that. A lot of coaches there in that group that have said the same thing. Is you start out not knowing what you don't know, and hitting these little pressure buttons that you hear people talking about, but that just leads to needing to know more. And so you've got to really back up and look high level, simple. I think we all make it too difficult, not hard to digest, not a lot of inside speak, really simple, bite-sized success. And then they can go and graduate to the next course. So I'm learning as well. And I've learned from a few people that, like yourself, 4 years ago could have said, don't do this, don't do that. I did it all wrong. But the toughest part for me, Alena, and I'm just wanting everybody to know, just getting started. There's so much planning, you doubting. I mean, even listen, I'm no Brad Pitt, and just getting in front of camera. I mean, I'm a guy. I'm not like that concerned about it, but I really don't like how I look on camera. But that's if the content is good, that's gone immediately. It's just silly. But that's where our head freezes us. And that has to do with everybody and everything. It's like you don't move forward because you're so frozen of the what ifs. And we're not that significant. I mean, people aren't really thinking about us as much as we think they are. So I just kind of keep reminding myself, just push play, just go and start doing it. And the feedback will tell you if it's not good, right? And they'll
Right.
tell you what they want to know more of, and therefore you have some new material. So it's been a
Yep.
fun journey for me, but I've fallen in love with educating in the last 3 or 4 years. And I know you, you and I don't know what happened. I want to tell everybody the first time I ever heard your name is you were going to attend the very first Rebel conference in Bend,
Oh,
Oregon
yeah.
and we didn't, we were just, I felt like it was what's the movie with Pony? I mean, we were just like just a bunch of people, not, just had this idea, a bunch of dreams. Jeremy Reddick was going to be there, yourself, OP was, Sean Michael Lewis. And it's like, we had this great lineup, and I don't think everybody could make it. I think it was kind of a last minute thing, but I know Andy said, oh, Alena is it. I mean, and I guess he said that he learned a lot from you, but it's been a wild ride. I'm not part of the Rebels anymore. We kind of evolved into something a little more professional. It kind of grew into something that wasn't, the mission wasn't tight enough. So, but I think it did cause a lot of changes in the minds of how some people think about get some more education, and don't just, don't be a victim of carrier pressure, become a participant, learn, educate yourself, and then move on. But I was really looking forward to it at that time, and we've had a few more. So maybe the next couple of years, if we have another one, I'd love to have you come speak, or if we do something live and virtual or something, you can participate in that.
Absolutely. Yep.
So tell
awesome.
me, what's it going away? What's a closeout? What's going on for the next couple of weeks? You got any places you're going to be? Any trainings you're doing?
I am in this chair for the next 2.5 weeks, recording my course that's currently in version 28 into X1. So I have 22 hours worth of lessons that I need to recreate in the new version, which is good. It needs to happen, like update all the dates that are on things and get some new fresh lessons in there and stuff. But that's me. And then I'm supposed to maybe go to New Mexico to visit my husband's family the first week of August. And then I'll be in IRE, International Roofing Expo, second week of August. They're in Vegas. So I'll be there. Come and say hi if anybody goes to the IRE. I'll have a booth.
Perfect. Hey, I think you're friends with Kim Reed, aren't you? Kim
yeah,
and Paul
I know her. Yeah.
Yeah, Kim and Paul. Yep. Amazing people. I'll actually see them next week in Boulder. They're going to drive up to our summit. And these are great people. I think she knew you. So tell everybody where they can find if they need training. Your website, is that the best place to get your information?
Well, it's really up to you. My YouTube channel, the name of my business is the letter X, the letter M, and the number 8, XM8 Mastery. And so that's what, if you want to go to YouTube, you can see I have quite a few videos over there if you'd like to get a flavor for my training. I'm also offering a free training series on our homepage. So xm8mastery.com. If you go there, you can sign up for a free 4-part series, have some other webinars and things going on. And that's pretty much where you want to go if you want to learn about what we do.
I'm going to put the link in the podcast because we'll, people want to check it out, because again, it's every day you're wondering something, and education never goes out of style. It's infinite. It's you're paying. Don't worry about what it costs. Ask yourself what it costs if you don't learn it. So I'm a big fan of that. So, well, listen, it was absolutely a pleasure to have you on here. I'm really glad you did this. And if I can do anything for you, if anyone has a question about some T&M or billing a large loss or something like that, I'm pretty sure you know a lot about those things. But anything at all I can help with, or if you want to, let's do it next year after. Let's agree that next year after, the one has been out for a while and the new thing, let's have another thing and see where we are. Like, was it better? Did it improve? Did they fix it? We'll just do a year from today. We'll see where we were and what's changed.
That's always fun. I love to do a year look back and summarize.
Yeah, me too.
Fun. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a great week, and good luck with your 22 hours of filming.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here and appreciate everybody who's listening. So that's awesome.
All right. Take care.
You too.